and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. I wanted to do this type of video. I've seen this kind of idea floating around. I know it's got like different titles. I'd see people say if I had a minimalist collection or if I wasn't a YouTuber or things like that, but I don't know if this little collection here that I have would be considered minimalist or not. I know that could be subjective for many people, so I'm just going to say this would be my makeup collection if it was more curated. So I am going to be having some B-roll footage going over while I'm talking about these, showing me applying these products. I'm not able to apply everything, but I will be swatching some stuff on the back of my hand as well, just to show you the shades and see them compared to each other. So if that sounds interesting, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first two products that I would mention are primers. I used to start out with my brows, but now I really like to do my priming steps first because then I feel like it has a chance to sit while I'm doing the rest of my makeup. But the first primer is an eyeshadow primer. I would never be without this primer. No matter what size my collection is, this is something that I'm always going to have, and that is the Milani eyeshadow primer. This, to me, I have tried many eyeshadow primers, or I feel like enough to know that this is the one that I'd want in my collection. I don't need any others. I don't care to try any others because this one works for me, and it's at the drugstore. It's affordable. I'm not sure, it's like $6-7 somewhere in there. It's less than 10 and it lasts. You just need a really small amount of it. That's all you need. Every eyeshadow I've laid over it always performs well, and I have tried eyeshadow primers too. I've tried other drugstore ones, I've tried high-end ones, and I always put this one on one eye and then one on the other, and to me the Milani either always outperforms or does just as well, so that's why this one's always going to be in my collection. No matter what, I want this one in this collection. Now the next product could be kind of like a multi-use product, which is one reason why I wanted this definitely in my collection, because this is one of those products where I can use it as a primer, but I could also use it as a standalone product too, like just add a little bit of coverage or something. Well, I say a little bit, it doesn't really have much coverage, but if I kind of want to even out some redness in my skin. But for the purpose of this video, I'm using it as a priming step, and that is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. This one is in the shade Zero Fair, which this is the lightest shade. I really love this stuff. I just feel like this is something that I would definitely want in my collection all the time. That's one reason why I wanted to include it, more so as a priming step, but this is something that I have used as a primer. I've used it as foundation technically, or I guess like a tinted moisturizer would be a better term for this. I've used it to mix into my foundations in the past. I think it's a good product to have in my collection. It's one that is more versatile, so I feel like I would want this in a much smaller collection. If I had a more curated collection, this product would definitely be in it. I really do love this one. I don't want to be without this, so yes, for sure this is going to be in here. More than likely it would be more of a primer step. Okay, after I have like my primers and everything out of the way, the next I would go in with eyeshadow. I always start with my eyeshadow first before my face. I just prefer that because then I can easily clean up like this outer edge if I need to, because I like to be a little messy when I apply eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is one of those things where I kind of wanted more of a like neutral to cool leaning option, and then I wanted more like a neutral warm leaning option because I felt like having both would give me kind of what I need for an everyday look, no matter what look I'm going for. Now today I've mixed these two palettes, which you will see in the demo. The first palette, of course, is going to be the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. I am so in love with this palette. I've loved this palette ever since the moment I tried it. It is my favorite palette. It is the palette that I'm always going to reach for. I never want to be without it, and I have significant dip in especially this shade. I feel like this might be the shade I hit pan on first. I really do want to hit pan in this palette simply because I feel like that kind of solidifies that this is my favorite eyeshadow palette. I just think this is lovely. This is more of like my neutral, sort of cool leaning. I feel like it's definitely more in the neutral ballpark, but it does lean a little more cool with some of those shades. And when you're seeing in the demo, I did use the shades Fair and Mesh initially from this palette to go like in my crease all over my lid, and then I went back in at the end and used Sheen for this beginning portion. Those were the shades I used from this particular palette. And the next eyeshadow palette is Natasha Denona as well. Now this one reflects, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to open it. This is the Golden eyeshadow palette. Now this is a more recent purchase to me. Now the reason why I'm not holding it so up close to the camera is because this one reflects so badly. I find that when I hold it back further, it doesn't do that. But of course, I have that video up on my channel if you want to see looks with this palette. I have swatches, I have everything. I have multiple looks with this palette, but I really do like it. And I think that between this one and the other one, I'd have everything I need for a neutral eye look, whether I wanted to go a little more warm or a little more cool toned. I have both of these. I feel like they are beautiful together. Now from this palette, I did use the shade Teak to really kind of slightly deepen up this outer corner of my eye. I like these two compared together. I feel like they work very well together. They're perfect sister palettes. So these would definitely be the palettes that I'd have. Now, at first I said I might do a single shadow too, but more than likely, if I had such a small collection, while I do love one and done eyeshadows, I would more than likely rather have palettes if I'm keeping a collection more small. I would still want a variety of eyeshadow because no matter if my collection is small, mid-sized, or large, I love a lot of options when it comes to eyeshadow. I do love eyeshadow palettes, even though they're all neutral. So that probably isn't a lot of options, but for me it is. I love neutral palettes. They're what I want, they're what I reach for. And these two I feel like are absolutely perfect, especially when you use them together. Of course, mascara will be next. Now, mascara is one of those things where more than likely I probably would rotate mascara around, like have only one open at a time, but after I finished a tube I would try something else for a little while. But there is one mascara that I feel like I would always want in my collection, even if I added another one on the side. This is one that I feel like I always want because it is that good. This is from Refi. This is the Lash Sculpt mascara. Of course, this is the one that has that really curved one, such a unique shape. I have never used a mascara quite like this before, but it is such a beautiful mascara. It just gives me the length, featheriness, that kind of look in your brows, and that's what I really have been loving lately. And it's one of those that it dries pretty quickly, so it really holds my curl all day. I don't have it smudging on me. I don't have it flaking. It performs to me kind of the way a waterproof would perform for me as far as holding my curl, but it's really easy to remove at the end of the day. I don't feel like I'm really struggling to get it off of my lashes. Now, one reason why I bring up how I would rotate is because I also love two other mascaras. Now, I don't have them currently in my collection simply because I do have them now as empties, but one would be the e.l.f. Lash and Roll Mascara in the brown shade. I really, really love that one. And then the Tower 28 Mascara in the brown shade. I love both of those, so more than likely they would at some point make an appearance in my more curated collection. But the Refi one is the winner to me simply because of what it does for my lashes. I think it is one of the most beautiful mascaras I've ever tried. I hope they really consider launching it in a brown shade because more than likely I would go for the brown. But I feel like this is such a soft mascara. It's soft enough where it doesn't look overpowering. If you typically don't use black mascaras because you feel they're too much for you, I still think this is a good option because it does make your lash look just really soft and fluttery. So I think it would be a good option to try anyway, even if you're not usually using black mascaras. But all in all, it's amazing. I do hope they make a brown, but this is a mascara that I definitely would repurchase over and over and over. It's just that good. Now, foundation is something that I struggled with at first because I have a lot of options in my collection that I really love. And at first I said, well, maybe I should pick like an actual foundation and then maybe more like a tinted product. But then I was really thinking, well, if I'm really narrowing this down, and I also included that e.l.f. Halo Glow as a primer that could technically be considered a tinted moisturizer if you wanted to use it that way. I wanted to pick just a foundation, but I wanted to pick one that I feel like I can easily customize how much coverage I'm getting on my face. And this is one that I think is definitely the case. This is from About Face. This is the Performer Skin Focus Foundation. Now mine is in the shade F2 Olive, and that is another reason why I picked out this foundation. Now this one does have like the applicator like this. This has an olive undertone, which is something that I feel like is not common in the fair shade range in foundations, and really olive undertones in general I feel are not as common as other undertones, but especially not for those who are really fair. Usually when you find them, they're in the medium skin tone range. So the fact that this exists, I love it. It is like one of my most perfect match foundations that I have. I do have one from Iliad that also has an olive undertone, but that's more of a serum foundation, and I feel like it's something that I couldn't easily customize, whereas this I can. I can just use a small amount of this and have like almost like that tinted moisturizer effect, but then I can also build this up to give me some decent coverage as well if that is what I'm looking for that particular day. So all in all, that was the reasons why I picked this one, but it is such a lovely foundation. I can't recommend it enough. If you've never tried it before, I would definitely consider it if you wanted to, if you were interested in looking for a new foundation, because it is just so beautiful on the skin, wears all day, looks beautiful, flawless by the end of the day, at least on me. Now I have more combo skin for those wondering. I get more oily in my T-zone, but I still feel like this is a beautiful foundation. I definitely would want this one in my collection somewhere. Now the next, I usually would have said, well, I'd want a corrector and I'd want a concealer because I do like to use a corrector on my under eyes because I do have some darkness there. But I have one product here that to me it serves both. It's the perfect shade. It is technically a corrector, but it's the perfect shade to be a concealer for my skin tone. And that is from Cali Ray. This is their Hideaway Brightening and Hydrating Under Eye Serum Concealer. And the one I have right here is in Pale Sun. I feel like this is such a lovely option. It is absolutely beautiful on the under eyes. It's like, definitely serum is a really good word because it, to me, I feel like it is not drying on my under eyes, and it does do a good job of concealing a little bit of darkness. Now, is it full coverage? Well, no, but that's not really what I'm personally looking for when I think of a concealer or even a corrector. More so when I think of correctors, I just want them to help enough so I don't have to use as much concealer. But I love this because it's like a 2-in-1 for me. That would cut out a whole step that I would have in my collection. Not that it's that big of a deal, but I do like this shade. I love that this is all I need. I don't have to go in with another corrector on top because, you know, some correctors you have to because they have a certain tone to them, so you have to go over them with a concealer to make them match your skin tone. I don't have to worry about that with this one. This is like my perfect match. I absolutely love this. I'm so glad that I did try it. This would definitely be in my collection for sure. For bronzer, I wanted to pick a cream and a powder because more than likely I would want both in my collection because, you know, on certain days, maybe I just want one or the other, or maybe like today in the demo that you're going to be seeing soon, I wanted to have both options, like to layer them. Now, I have many cream bronzers that I love. I have plenty in my collection that I think are so amazing, but what made me decide to pick this one, and this one is from Say. This is their Sun Melt Natural Cream Bronzer, and this one is in the shade Fair Bronze. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I picked this one over my other favorite cream bronzers, and a couple of things. One, I like that this is in a little pot like this, so I can easily just like keep it closed. I think that if you are someone that travels, that would probably help versus like stick bronzers, which would be my other favorites. They might break off, you never know. The tone of this is absolutely perfect. It is so natural, just like it says natural cream bronzer. That is the perfect description of this. It goes on really beautifully, really easy to blend out. It just blends in no time. It's the perfect shade, and what I love is this has more product in it versus the other favorites that I have. That's another deciding factor for me, how much product are in these little pots or pans or whatever might be the case. Especially that really played a factor more so in the bronzer area for me because I do have multiple favorites. See, this bronzer here, it says it's like 1 ounce of product, or 30, I guess that's milliliters, I guess would be the, to me that had way more product than the other cream bronzers that were in my collection. And I feel like if I'm only going to have one cream bronzer, I want one that's going to last me a little bit longer. I wouldn't want to be flying through bronzers too quickly if I'm only allowed to have one option. So that's one of the reasons why I picked this, but this is a beautiful bronzer. It's just lovely. I like a natural bronze. I don't want to be too heavy-handed when it comes to bronzer, and I feel like this is one of those products where it's very easy to apply. There's no risk of overdoing it because it blends out just so beautifully. So that would definitely be my cream bronzer. The next product was also one of those where I took size, the amount of product in the pan, as a reasoning for why I would pick this one. Now, as you know, in past videos, I've mentioned that I love the House Labs bronzer and I love the Fenty Beauty powder bronzers. But I also have recently tried this one. Now, this one was newer to me. I just recently tried that one this year. Now, this has been out for a long time. I was just really late with trying it. This is from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Airbrush bronzer, and this one is in the Fair option. Now, there are a few reasons why I picked this one over those two, and it kind of come down to practicality as well. This has a lot more product in it than those two do. This one has 0.56 ounces of product, whereas the Fenty, I believe, only had like 0.20 or somewhere in there, and the House Lab one had like 0.30 something. I'm not sure exactly with these numbers, but this had so much more product. And another thing that I love about this one that those two options don't have, this is refillable. You only had to buy this outer packaging once, and then you just can pop this pan out and just replace the pan the next time you need it. And I feel like I like that option as well. And I feel like this is a beautiful bronzer. It is perfect for fair skin. Now, I will say that I have to be a little bit more careful with this one than I do those two, simply because I feel like this one builds up much more quickly. However, I don't mind that personally because I just use a more fluffier brush and just go in very lightly, and it's not a big deal. And this is a beautiful bronzer. It's really beautiful. I can see why it's a favorite for many people. I really do like it. But then I also wanted to take in, yes, whether or not I liked a product, but also the practicality of a product. And this had more product. This has where you can pop out the pan and just buy a refill. I like that as well. So this is definitely be my powder bronzer option for sure. There is no highlighter that I picked out simply because I'm not not a highlighter person. Now, I will say my products have glow to them already, and that's enough for me. I don't want to add on an extra product that will give me even more glow than I already can get from these products that I picked out. Highlighter just is one of those things where if I'm going to cut something out, it's going to be that. I just don't care much about it. It's just not for me. Now, blush is definitely a category that I struggled with because I do have many favorites. I love blush. That's probably, after eyeshadow palettes, that's probably the largest collection I have, and I still want to buy new ones all the time. I shouldn't, but I love trying them out. I love makeup and I love trying new things. If I'm really going to narrow this down, here are the options that I pick. Now, one of these is a 2-in-1. It has a powder and a cream inside. So if you go like that, I have 2 creams and 2 powders here. So the first one I'm going to mention right here, let's start with the powder. Now this was a hard choice because I had several powder options that I really love, but this is the only powder bronzer in my collection that I have repurchased. And I feel like that means something to me because I have so many. I've never repurchased any other blush. And I have this one. This is from Milani. This is their Powder Rose blush, or rose powder blush, and this is in the shade Romantic Rose. This is such a soft, delicate flush. It is so beautiful. I'm going to swatch it on the back of my hand. And you might not even can see it because it is that light. It's a very light blush. I'm hoping you can see that. I'm going to swatch all the blushes all together on the back of my hand. I just think that is so lovely. And that's one of the reasons why I'd want it in my collection, because it is so soft and it's buildable. You can build it up to be a little more. Now I am wearing it over the top of one of the creams here, but this is one that I love that softness. If I can only have a few options, more than likely I'm going to pick soft options because those are usually what I'm going for the most, and this is perfect. It's so beautiful. Definitely a classic. It's been out for a long time, but it's still just as good. I think it's such a beautiful blush. Okay, the next one here is from Patrick Ta. This is one of the double take cream and powder blushes. Now this one is in the shade Not Too Much. Now this is one that has the powder and the cream in it as well. I'm going to swatch the powder first so you can see it in comparison to this powder, but this to me is a lovely tone, and it's just like what it says. This is like definitely a not too much kind of, and there you can see that shade right there. To me it's like this shade but just a little darker, but it's kind of a similar color family, like, you know, a little bit more on the kind of sort of more warmy side on me anyway. I have a very warm undertone, so most products will definitely pull a little bit more warm on me, but what I love about this blush is how soft it is. I think, you know, his blushes are very pigmented, and while this is pigmented, this is pigmented enough, I feel like this is a much more softer version, which is what I like. I love blushes that are a little bit more easier to work with. I don't want to have to panic too much when I'm using blush, so this is definitely the perfect option. And I do like his blushes because you get a cream and a powder, so you get a 2 for 1, and I really love that. Now while we're here, we'll talk about the cream side of this blush as well, and then I have one more cream blush here, and I will swatch those two together as well. And with his, I love to layer his blushes like the cream and the powder, but then I also like them on their own for some days. And then there you can see the cream version of Not Too Much, which is just such a beautiful tone. It's so pretty, and I love applying it with the powder, but then I like applying it by itself too. I think that it just depends on your mood for that day, whether, you know, you want that or not. I just think this is a lovely option, and what I like about this is he has so many shades that you will definitely find a shade for you that you would really truly love. And depending on your preference, you know, I feel like even with these you do have to be careful, but they're still lovely blushes nonetheless. I would definitely want one of his in my collection, and Not Too Much is the most perfect shade to me. And last, this one right here from Refi. This is their cream blush in the shade Rose. This is a beautiful, delicate blush. In the demo, this is the one that I applied today, and then I applied the Milani over the top of it. And as you can see, it's just got, it's a little bit more of a brighter tone, but I like to go in with a small amount of it, and it just looks like a really beautiful, natural flush. So you can see all these tones right here together. I just think these are so pretty. They're definitely in the color family that I love when it comes to products like this. I just like these kind of tones. It's very stunning. You know, and there is a little bit more, like, you know, some warmth. This one's a little bit more on the neutral, cool leaning side of things. So I do really like having that option as well. Blush, I needed more than one. There's no way I could sit here and just pick one blush out of everything I've tried because they're just so amazing. But I feel like these products stand out to me the most. most out of everything I have, so I wanted to mention them in this video, and these are ones that I would definitely repurchase over and over and over because they are just that good. Alright, the next product is powder. Now, for powder, I at first was going to do a pressed and a loose powder, but no, if I can only pick one powder in my collection that is one that I'd want to repurchase over and over, and I have. I've actually had an empty of this powder before. It was in the mini size, but I mean still, I feel like powder is something that you don't go through a lot. Not as fast like, you know, with a loose option, and I had to have this powder again. Now, this is the one size powder. This is the ultimate, I think it's called the ultimate setting powder. Now, this one is in the Ultra Peach shade. This is a newer shade to the brand. They just recently launched this shade. The last one I had that I completely emptied was the translucent. Now, for me, I would want either one of them. It doesn't matter which tone, I would want this powder in my collection. Now, the Ultra Peach is really lovely. I feel like one thing I like about this is it does, I feel like, help kind of merge like your under eye with your blush, because it does have that little bit of peachiness to it. Now, it doesn't give a cast. Not on me anyway. Now, because at first I was a little concerned about that, because some of these powders that have a little bit more of a tint to them, sometimes they can give me kind of like a cast on my skin. They make certain areas of my face look a little too dark, like they don't just blend in nicely with my skin tone. That isn't the case with this powder. This is a lovely powder. So personally, I'd be fine with this, and then I would also purchase the translucent as well, but I want this powder in my collection. When I completely emptied out that mini, I missed this powder. I missed having it in my collection. I missed having it as an option. It really is a blurring powder. It sets really nicely. It's beautiful. I just love this powder. It's definitely one that, yeah, if I could only have one, this is the one I want. This has to be in my collection. I don't want anything over this one. And don't get me wrong, I really love the e.l.f. Halo Glow as well. I like that option too, but there's something about that one size powder that just tops that one for me, but that one is a good one as well. Now, brows. Usually after I do all of that steps, then I go in with my brows. Now, as you are seeing, I am using the golden eyeshadow palette and using the shade Log to fill in my brows. I would not more than likely have a brow pencil in my collection. I would use that eyeshadow or the eyeshadow silhouette in the I Need a Nude palette. I would use one of those. I love the way they look in my brows. It definitely is a much more softer look to me. It's easier to kind of control how much product you're applying in your brows. I would use definitely one of those eyeshadows. I love brow pencils, don't get me wrong, and I've tried many that are really nice. I like the Refi one, I like the Kosas one, but at the end of the day, most of these brow pencils are the same. There's really not one that stands out above the other. What I feel like is the most important thing when it comes to what brow pencil you're picking out is the shade, because there are certain brands that don't have a good shade range when it comes to brow products, and then others do. For me, the Kosas one has my perfect match. That one is the most perfect I've ever been able to find, except for I did have one from Milani one time that was a really good match. But that would be the most perfect tone, because the Refi one is a little bit too warm. I like it, but it is a little too warm. And most of the brow products that I use, I feel like even the dark brown leans too warmly. So for me, having those two options in these eyeshadow palettes, that's what I'm going to use in my brows. And as far as my brow gel, I only need one, and that is the Refi. This is the Brow Sculpt. This is the clear one. They only have a clear in this particular thing. I know they have a tinted brow gel elsewhere that's got like the weird little brush on the end, but this is the one that I'd want. I've never tried that one anyway. I like this one, and it does have like the brush and everything on this side. I don't ever really use that because I'm not fully laminating my brows. I just like to fluff up this beginning part of my brow, and I feel like I don't need the little brush to do that, but that is there for if you do want to fluff up the entire brow. This brow gel will hold, and that's what I want. That's what I look for. I have yet to find a brow gel that holds these hairs right here up the way this one does. So until I do, this is definitely going to be the one in my collection. For lip products, I wanted to have several options for me to work with, because I know it would be probably more ideal to have only one lipstick, one gloss, you know, that kind of thing. But regardless of that, I still would want this collection to have some options. Even, you know, even if it was on the smaller side, I'd still want it to have those options. So for lip liners, I would pick these three from Tower 28. I love these. These are so nice, and they're wooden lip pencils, which is my favorite type of lip liner. I love a good wooden lip pencil, and I feel like these three shades, which these are the only three shades that Tower 28 currently makes. I don't know if they plan to expand this line in the future, but right now these are the only three, and they're perfect because it's kind of like you have a lighter option, a mid-tone option, and a deeper option. So that would be all I would need. So the first shade right here is Fill Me In. This would be the lightest shade, and I'll swatch all of these and then I'll show them to you. And then we have Work of Art, which would be more of like the mid-tone kind of shade. And then the deepest shade is Draw Me. And then there's the options right there. I feel like that is everything I would need for lip liners. Those are the perfect 3 shades to me because I don't wear shades like red or purple or anything like that. These would be the shades I would more than likely go for, so these 3 are perfect. Now, one thing about these lip liners, you can also use these on the cheeks and the eyes. That's why they're called these little multi-liners. I've never used them that way. I don't know if that would work. I have no idea. Personally, I only use these on my lips, and because I have that, I would not want to put these on my eyes. But now, I would be up to trying the shade Draw Me on my eyes, but like buy a separate one, you know, one that hasn't been on my lips. I'm just weird about that. But I think these are just lovely. They're so nice. They glide really easily. They're comfortable to wear, which is what I like. I did use the shade Work of Art in the demo you were seeing and just filled my lips in with that. I think it's just a perfect option for that. Really beautiful. But these are definitely the ones that I would have. I just like these. I love these. I just think they're really nice, and I kind of like that these 3 shades are just what you need. A light, mid-tone, deep shade. I like that. And it was the same thing with lipsticks. I wanted kind of a light, mid-tone, and deeper option for me. Bear in mind, these are all subjective to my skin tone. And the first one here is from Lawless. This is one of their Forget the Filler satin lipsticks. This one's in the shade Wedding Day. Now, I did pair it with a little bit of a deeper, well, mid-tone liner today, but this shade on its own is very light. It's very, very light. So I'm gonna swatch it right here on the back of my hand. And then I'm gonna swatch all of them, and then I'll show you all 3 of them together on my hand. The next option would be more of my mid-tone, and this is from e.l.f. This is their Au Face Satin Lipstick, and this one is in the shade Dirty Talk. This is one of my most favorite lipsticks ever. I definitely would want this one in my collection somehow, because this to me is just a perfect shade, and it's basically like My Lips But Better kind of shade, which I really like. And the third one is from Westman Atelier. This is their Lip Suede Matte Lipsticks. This one is in the shade PK. This is an expensive lipstick. This is a $50 lipstick. I do want to say that. But if I'm going to have a small collection, I feel like sometimes there might be areas where I want to splurge a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that if that is something you want to do. But here you can see the 3 options. See how like we have a little bit of a lighter, a mid-tone, and then a deeper shade relative to my skin tone. And they are perfect with these liners. I really love these shades, and these 3 lipsticks stand out to me out of all the lipsticks I have. Now, don't get me wrong, I have others that are equally good. I love the Rare Beauty ones and all that, but there's something special about these 3 that I really love. And even the one from Westman Atelier, which is a matte, it's very comfortable on the lips. I don't find that it dries out my lips the way other matte lipsticks do. These 3 are just the perfect lipsticks. I mean, this right here would be all I'd need as far as lip liner and lipsticks go. These are perfect. These are just, I love these. Yes. Definitely these. Lip gloss. Now, I would have 3. However, there's one of them that I don't actually have in my collection yet. And I know you're probably thinking, well, how do you know you'd want it? Oh, I already know. I already know I would love it. I already know. I just don't have it yet, but I plan on picking it up the next time I'm in Sephora and Kohl's. I don't have like an actual Sephora near me, but I do have one that's inside of Kohl's. But first things first, this one is from Lawless. This is the Forget the Filler Lip Plumping Line Smoothing Gloss, and this one is in the shade Glaze. This is like a really pretty shimmery kind of vibe. Let me swatch this. This is like a really beautiful, like you can see it right there, like a really beautiful shimmery kind of glittery topper that I really love. I just really love to apply this over other products. Now, I did apply a different one over the top of what I'm wearing today, but I really do like this one. It is so pretty. I just love that it kind of adds, and it's one of those where it's really beautiful to add over the top of a lipstick, but it's also really pretty just to use one of these liners and then use that over the top. I just want something that's easily customizable because, you know, if you only have a few options, you want them to be customizable where you can get more than one look out of these. So that's definitely one that I would have. Now here's where I would have the 2. This is from Charlotte Tilbury, and I cannot get enough of this product. This is the Pillow Talk Big Lip Plumpgasm. Now this one is in the fair, I think it's fair medium? Yes, fair medium shade. However, there is also a darker version of this. I want that one too. That's why I said that I would have 3 lip glosses in total, but one of them I don't have in my collection yet. And then there you can kind of, if it'll focus for me, there you can see that shade right there. I think that's beautiful. And then if I had the other one, that would be my deep. Then I'd have like the light option, the mid-tone, and then the deep option as well. That was kind of my thought process. And I love this enough to where I already know that I would want that other shade. And I know I'd already love it because I love this one. So that would be what I'd pick out for lip glosses. And then if I had that one, that'd be the deeper option, and then I'd have everything I need. That would be the perfect lip wardrobe, if you will, for my collection. I love all of these products. These all work beautifully together. But there you have all the products I would pick out if I had a more curated makeup collection. And I really like doing videos like this because it really does make you think what products are in your collection currently that you feel like are the ones. If you had to get rid of everything else, which ones would you really truly want? And these products just stand out to me above the rest. Now, I know that there will probably come more makeup in the future that I would try, and some of those might top these. But as of right now, with what I currently have in my collection, these products stand out the most. I love them. I know that they're going to work for me. They apply beautifully together, as you can see here. Everything works really nicely. I've worn this face of makeup a few days in a row here. By the time you're seeing this video, this is makeup that I've been wearing on a daily basis, and I just love it. I think they work really beautifully together. The tones are perfect together. This is what I would want for every single day if I had this kind of collection. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification so you are alerted to all my future uploads, and follow me on Instagram at jessicadeerly, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!